The American population of Rochester grew during the 1950s and 1960s, increasing from 7,845 in 1950 to more than 32,000 in 1964. At the time of the riot, much of that population growth came from the South, traveling north in hopes of better socioeconomic conditions. Black migrants were instead met with segregated schools, dilapidated housing, and an unemployment rate 6 times higher than white people. Black residents suffered from constant public harassment and humiliation, as well as being denied housing throughout the city and being funneled into the run-down Upper Falls neighborhood. The Rochester Race Riot came at a time of heightened racial tensions and violence in the United States, occurring only a week after the Race Riot in Harlem, New York.
Community-police relationships in the early 60s were at best bad. It was common harassment, unwarranted arrests, and even brutality.
At 10 p.m. on July 24, 1964, the Rochester Police Department attempted to arrest an intoxicated man at a block party on Joseph Avenue in the Upper Falls neighborhood of Rochester. Police found 20-year-old Randy Manigault unruly and disorderly. They determined he was intoxicated and attempted to arrest him. Manigault became combative and resisted arrest. Bystanders felt police were too forceful and started throwing bottles and bricks at the police. Police then called for backup. The K-9 unit responded due to a shortage of other officers.
It was common for the police to bring the K-9 dogs to a skating rink on Chestnut Street, which was frequented by African-American youth, skating rink, and that was a source of irritation and concern within the community.
Two police dogs were used to control the crowd. The use of police dogs played a big part in starting the riot, with the presence of K-9 units evoking memories of violent police dogs being used against peaceful civil rights protesters in the South. By 11:30 p.m., all available officers had been deployed and were engaged with around 400 rioters. At 2 a.m., Rochester Police Chief William Lombard ordered officers to use riot weapons on the crowd.
We're only going to use this in case of an emergency. We've got an emergency, but we want it worse than it is before we start using tear gas or any other weapons.
Yes, bearing in mind that when it's used, if it's not used properly, that will blow right back into your gun if you got gas mask. The tear gas will be used by the sergeant or a commanding officer above him. Lieutenant Morris, you go with sergeant.
By 3:30 a.m., the riot swelled to 2,000 people. At 9 a.m., July 25, 1964, Governor Rockefeller declared a state of emergency, with the event officially being dubbed a riot. The last day of the ordeal was July 26, when a helicopter used to survey the violence flew too close to a house on Clarissa Street, clipping the roof. The crash resulted in the immediate death of the pilot and the 2 residents of the house.
The helicopter hit the roof of a house and caught on fire, crashed. My dad was very, very severely burned and spent 30 days fighting for his life at Strong Hospital. He took a turn for the worse, and we were planning a funeral. York, I must admit that I was very racist.
The explosion of an observation helicopter in the heavily black 3rd Ward that weekend of the riots in July of '64 was symbolic of the social explosion manifest by the riots themselves.
Peace was restored after Governor Nelson Rockefeller mobilized between 800 and 1,000 New York National Guardsmen. By the time the disturbance was over, 5 were dead, 350 injured, and 976 people were arrested.